Friday, January 26, 1945. Months after watching Nazis murder his best friend Laddie, the Germans came again. This time for Holtzwihr. The only thing between them and the American lines was a 5'4" Texan who decided if the Germans really wanted that real estate, they'd have to drive over his burnt corpse to take it. German guns ripped into Company B. Through the smoke, 6 panzers crawled forward, waves of infantry behind them. An American M10 tank destroyer took a direct hit and went up in flames. Its crew bailed out and headed for the woods. Instead of running, he climbed on top, ripped the Ma Deuce to life, and started throwing .50 caliber Freedom seeds downrange into German infantry and armor. Shells burst around him. Flames curled at his feet as he called artillery on his own position, and that was just one line on the most decorated service record of World War II. This is the unbelievable true story of the short Texan who humiliated the Nazi war machine, the real Captain America, Audie Murphy.
I'll let you talk to them!
Our story begins on June 20th, 1925 in Hunt County, Texas. Audie Leon Murphy comes into the world as the 7th of 12 kids in a dirt-poor sharecropper family. They're so broke, and his parents are having kids so fast, they literally just name him after the neighbor who helped deliver him. The Murphys don't own land. They rent it, cotton country, sweat, debt, and dust. His dad is an unreliable alcoholic who drifts in and out of the picture, and every time he can't feed the kids he already has, he brings another one into the world. Audie never really forgives him for that. As a boy, he picks up marksmanship the hard way. If he misses, the family doesn't eat. He starts with rocks, graduates to a slingshot, and finally to a beat-up .22 rifle. First time he goes on a real hunt with adults, they shrug and send the 7-year-old up the hill with his little .22 to plink at some birds. Minutes later, what they hear sounds less like a kid shooting and more like a platoon in a firefight. When they get up there, little Audie is surrounded by dead doves, having already blown past the legal limit like it was nothing. Later in life, he sums it up simple. If I missed, I didn't eat, and I couldn't afford more bullets. By 13, Audie drops out of school to work full-time. Cotton fields, gas stations, general store. Odd jobs for $1 a day. Whatever keeps his brothers and sisters alive. One day his dad finally just walks out and never comes back. When his mother dies a couple years later, Audie is basically a half-starved teenager raising 5 younger kids on stubbornness and hate for quitters. As he'd say later, "I suppose I hated him because I hate anyone who quits." Audie Murphy does not quit.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Then comes Pearl Harbor. America is going to war, and this scrawny 16-year-old Texas kid wants in. There's just one problem. He's 5 feet 4 inches tall and about 110 pounds soaking wet. So he tries anyway. The Marines take one look and say no. The paratroopers say no. The Navy says no. Everybody loves America, but nobody loves the tiny kid. But Audie isn't the type to take a hint. His older sister forges his age, the recruiter fudges his height and weight to 5 feet 5 inches and 112 pounds. And the United States Army finally says yes in June 1942. In basic, he gets all the usual short guy nicknames: Shorty, Baby, Little Shit. But when the shooting starts, nobody laughs at his size anymore. Because this kid did not miss. By 1943, Murphy is in the 3rd Infantry Division, shipping out to the Mediterranean. North Africa, Sicily, then Italy. The mountains are steep, the mud is endless, and the Germans are very, very good at killing people. In Sicily and then southern Italy, he gets his first real taste of combat, patrolling, scrambling up rocky hills, trading fire with men he never really sees. One day his patrol stumbles on 2 German forward observers. Audie spots them first, drops to one knee, and kills both with clean shots before they can bring in artillery on his platoon. He doesn't feel glory, no Hollywood moment, just, they would have killed us if they had the chance. That's our job. A few days later, his platoon gets pinned by a German machine gun ambush. New guys freeze. Some are literally sobbing behind cover. Audie decides retreating is more dangerous than going forward, so he does what will become a pattern. He attacks. Murphy charges the position alone, screaming for his men to follow. He breaks the ambush, takes out the gun, and drags his platoon back from the brink. For that, he's promoted to corporal, and the officers start realizing this little Texan might be something different. Then malaria hits, high fevers, hospital stays, weight falling off his already small frame. He misses the capture of Palermo while he's laid up, but as soon as he can stand, he insists on going back. He'll repeat that pattern over and over, sick, hurt, shot, back on the line anyway. In early 1944, Murphy rejoins his unit in time for Anzio, a bloody stalemate on an Italian beachhead where everyone is cold, wet, and waiting to die. One night, he hears Germans working on a damaged tank in no man's land. It's dark, dangerous, and absolutely not his problem. So naturally, Audie volunteers to go deal with it. He leads a patrol forward, then leapfrogs ahead of his own men. At about 15 yards from the tank, he throws 2 Molotov cocktails that fail to ignite properly. Most guys would take the hint and crawl back. Murphy climbs on top of the tank instead, drops a grenade down the open hatch, sprints away, and then calmly fires rifle grenades into the track to finish the job. For that stunt, he earns the Bronze Star with V device for valor. By the time the Allies march into Rome, most soldiers are grabbing wine and women. Audie spends his downtime learning to call in artillery and mortar fire with deadly accuracy. While other guys chase a break, he's chasing skills that'll keep his men alive. Next stop, Operation Dragoon, the forgotten D-Day landing in southern France. Murphy comes ashore with Company B, 15th Infantry Regiment, and pushes inland through vineyards and hills. His squad gets pinned down by machine gun fire from above. Men are dead and wounded. The rest are stuck in the vines, hunched behind paper-thin cover. Every time someone moves, the Germans open up. After about 20 minutes of this, Audie decides he's had enough. Again. He charges up the hill, firing at any patch of skin he can see. He later said he aimed for the white of their foreheads. When his carbine runs dry, he sprints back through withering fire, grabs a BAR from his weapons section, and returns to the same exposed spot. He and his best friend, Private Laddie Tipton, start bounding up the hill together. One fires while the other moves. They work their way close enough to destroy a German position with grenades. Then, the Germans raise a white flag. Tipton stands to accept their surrender. A German shoots him point blank through the heart. Something in Murphy snaps. He later said, "It felt like a demon climbed into his body." He charges the rest of the hill alone, grabbed a German MG-42 from the nest he just wiped out, then proceeds to take out multiple positions, kills at least 6, wounds more, and captures 11 prisoners, almost single-handed. For this, he receives the Distinguished Service Cross, America's second highest award for valor. He also loses the closest friend he had in the war. His men remember him coming back down the hill, cradling Tipton's body and sobbing, the only time most of them ever saw Audie Murphy cry. From that moment on, the war is personal. If he was dangerous before, now he's on an absolute rampage. In the Vosges Mountains of eastern France, Murphy's unit fights through thick forests and deadly valleys in the fall of 1944. German snipers, machine guns, and mortar teams are dug in everywhere. On October 2nd, 1944, his patrol walks into an ambush. Everyone hits the dirt. Fire is pouring in. If they retreat, they'll be cut down. If they stay, they'll get bracketed with mortars. So Audie crawls off to the flank alone, charges into the teeth of the position, hurls grenades, and empties his weapon at point-blank range. He kills multiple Germans, wounds more, and shatters the ambush. That action earns him his first Silver Star. 3 days later, October 5th, it happens again. His men are pinned by fire from an unseen enemy. Murphy grabs the radio from a dead operator, Lowe crawls forward until he can spot the enemy, and spends an hour calmly walking mortar fire across German positions, killing 15 and wounding dozens. Second Silver Star, 3 days apart. By now, his commanders are out of ideas on how to recognize this kid. They try to make him an officer. Audie doesn't want the promotion. He dropped out at 13, hates paperwork, and would rather fight than write. So his colonel basically tells him, "Too bad, we'll find someone else to do your paperwork." Audie Murphy becomes a lieutenant. On October 26th, the plot armor finally slips. A German sniper line finds its mark and shoots him in the backside. He doesn't even realize it at first. He's trying to locate the sniper when his helmet, laying on the ground next to him, takes a round. He spots the muzzle flash, kills the sniper, and then figures out he's bleeding. His reaction? Something along the lines of, "Well, I'll be damned, I've been shot in the ass." The wound turns into gangrene. Surgeons cut pounds of infected flesh out of one cheek and pump him full of penicillin. He flirts with the nurses, who can't believe this baby-faced 19-year-old kid is supposedly the most dangerous man in the US Army. They aren't wrong. After about 2 months, he badgers the doctors into releasing him and demands to go back to his unit. The Colmar Pocket in Alsace is one of the last nasty German strongholds on the French side of the Rhine. 9 enemy divisions, brutal cold, deep snow, and a lot of men who haven't gotten the memo that the war is already lost. Murphy rejoins his company on January 14th. He's 19 years old, limping, recovering from shrapnel, malaria, and a bullet wound. And he's still the sharpest weapon the division has. On January 26, 1945, near the village of Holtzwihr, everything comes to a head. His unit is dug in along a tree line facing open ground. There are 2 M10 tank destroyers in support. It's freezing. Men are stomping their feet, pacing to stay warm. Then, early afternoon, the Germans show up the way they always do in your nightmares. 6 tanks, about 250 infantry behind them. German artillery strikes first and sets one M10 on fire, killing part of the crew and forcing the rest to bail out. The other M10 can't penetrate the German armor. Murphy realizes they're about to get steamrolled, so he orders his men to fall back into the woods and hold. Then he runs toward the burning tank destroyer. Cue the doom music. He climbs up, pulls the dead lieutenant out of the hatch, grabs the 50 cal on top and the field phone, and starts doing 2 jobs at once, raking German infantry with 50 caliber fire, all while calling in artillery on his own position. When the fire direction center asks how close the enemy is to him, he famously tells them,
I'll let you talk to them.
For about an hour, this 19-year-old 5'4" Texan stands on a flaming tank destroyer, alone, firing a machine gun at an advancing company of German infantry and tanks, with artillery falling close enough to kill him if he's off by a grid or 2. German shells hit the M10 multiple times. Miraculously, it does not explode. Murphy is wounded in the leg by shrapnel, but he refuses to leave. At one point, a dozen German soldiers try to flank him using a ditch. He swings the 50 over and cuts them down at point-blank range. Only when he finally runs out of ammunition does he jump off the wreck, limp back to his men, and immediately lead a counterattack that drives the Germans off and secures the position. For that 1 hour of pure stubborn insanity, Audie Murphy receives the Medal of Honor. His citation credits him with killing or wounding around 50 Germans. Eyewitnesses swore the real number was far higher. When anyone asked him later why he did it, he didn't give a big speech. He just said, "They were killing my friends." After Holtzwihr, the army decides they've used up all their luck with this kid. He's promoted to first lieutenant, awarded the Legion of Merit, and pulled from the front lines as a regimental liaison officer. Officially, they can't afford to lose the most decorated soldier in the U.S. Army. Unofficially, Murphy hates it. Anytime he hears that his old company is in serious trouble, he checks on the line in his Jeep, shows up at the front, and somehow ends up in the middle of the firefight anyway. The war ends before it kills him, which honestly might be the most surprising part of the whole story. By June 1945, near Salzburg, Austria, he's officially presented with the Medal of Honor and recognized as America's most decorated combat soldier of World War II. He's 20 years old. His final rack of awards looks like it was made for a propaganda poster. Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, 2 silver stars, 2 bronze stars with V, 3 purple hearts, Legion of Merit, plus French and Belgian Croix de Guerre and the French Legion of Honor. Not bad for the kid every recruiter turned down. When he comes home, Murphy is suddenly everywhere. Time magazine cover, parade routes, interviews. People want to turn him into a symbol, America's golden boy, the real-life Captain America with a Texas drawl. He hates the spotlight, but he loves his family. When Hollywood comes calling, he says yes, not because he wants to be famous, but because he wants to take care of his younger siblings. He becomes an actor, mostly in westerns and war films. His biggest hit is To Hell and Back, 1955, where he literally plays himself, and the studio still tones it down because they think audiences won't believe what he actually did. With his new money, he goes to his older sister and her husband and makes good on a promise. He'll buy them a house if they'll adopt and raise the younger Murphy kids like their own. The broke, angry farm kid who once had to send his siblings to an orphanage now buys them a home. But while the world sees a hero, the man himself is still stuck in the war. Murphy suffers from what we now call PTSD, nightmares, insomnia, sleeping with a loaded gun under his pillow, pills just to shut his brain off at night, gambling problems, and a temper that wrecks relationships. Back then, nobody had a clean label for it. Shell shock, nerves, battle fatigue, all ways to say, "You're messed up, but we don't know how to help you." Murphy does something most tough guys of his era would never do. He talks about it, publicly. He openly admits he has nightmares, that the war never really ended in his head, and he criticizes the government for not doing enough to help returning veterans adjust and heal. Coming from Audie Murphy, the most decorated soldier of the war, that hits differently. If he can say "this broke me," it gives millions of other veterans permission to admit the same thing. You can make a strong argument that one of the bravest things he ever did wasn't on a battlefield in France. It was sitting down in front of a camera and saying, "I am not okay." On May 28, 1971, Audie Murphy boards a small plane in bad weather with a pilot who isn't properly rated for the conditions or the aircraft. The plane crashes into a Virginia hillside, killing everyone on board. He's only 46 years old. Rumors and conspiracy theories bloom. Mob hits, government silencing, FBI informant drama. But the hard truth is simple. Bad weather, bad judgment, bad luck. He's buried in Arlington National Cemetery. His grave is the second most visited in the cemetery after JFK. His family is offered a fancy monument and gold leaf headstone befitting a national hero. They decline. They know Audie wouldn't have wanted to be set above the men he fought beside. So he rests under a simple white headstone, just like the soldiers he spent his life trying not to outlive. Audie Murphy never asked to be a hero. He just refused to quit. From a dirt-poor Texas childhood to the most decorated soldier of World War II, he fought the enemy overseas and his own demons back home. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and comment to help keep these American legends alive. God bless our troops, our veterans, and God bless the United States of America.